Hello, guys. Good morning from San Francisco. I hope you're enjoying the sessions at this event so far. So before I start, let me give a brief introduction. My name is Sunil Bemarkar, and I work as a Senior Partner Solutions Architect at AWS. I have around 20 plus years of experience working in various industry verticals, of which the past 7 plus years I have been working on cloud technologies in various roles. So today I will be presenting a session on modernizing workflow orchestration with BMC's Control M software and AWS's Mainframe Modernization service. Along with me during the presentation, I have my colleague Vaidi Sankaran, who works as a senior modernization architect at AWS. And I have Joe Goldberg, who is the principal solutions marketing manager at BMC, the host company. The presentation is divided into three sections, where I will hand it over to my colleague to walk you through the AWS Mainframe Modernization service, followed by Joe Goldberg from BMC, who will present the Control M software features. And finally, in the end, I will wrap up the presentation with a live demo of this workflow integration solution, which has been developed as a joint effort between AWS and BMC. So, what does this integration offering has to offer for the organizations who want to implement this, right? It's a valid question. Without the benefits, why even bother about the integration? So as we know, there are a number of organizations currently out there who run their critical business workloads on mainframe in an on-premise environment. And also, most of these organizations use BMC's Control M workflow orchestrator as a de facto solution to schedule jobs and orchestrate workflows on mainframe. So when these organizations are in the process of migrating or in the planning phase of migrating in near future, the mainframe workloads onto AWS cloud using mainframe modernization service, they would obviously like to keep using Control M as their solution for scheduling jobs and orchestration workflows in order to keep business continuity. And this is what this integration solution has to offer. So we foresee customers as part of this journey, customers migrating either part of the mainframe workloads onto AWS cloud or the complete mainframe workload onto AWS cloud, and still be able to either use Control M in an on-premise distributed environment, or better even migrate the Control M solution to AWS cloud and orchestrate the jobs on AWS. Just a point to make, Control M can orchestrate any type of workloads migrated onto AWS cloud or running on AWS cloud for that matter, with AWS Mainframe Modernization workload as one of the type. This integration from the AWS cloud perspective brings in the increased scalability, reliability, tighter security, cost savings, and the business agility to the solution as part of what AWS cloud platform has on offer. So these benefits are not just for the workloads being migrated onto AWS modernization service, but this extends the benefit also to the Control M, which is migrated and running on AWS cloud. So that's on the AWS side. But not only this, the Control M helps with business continuity and has a simplified end-to-end workflow across scalable environments, which makes it very user-friendly for the organizations. Control M offers what you call a unified view for the users, where they can actually schedule, orchestrate, and monitor all application workload executions through single pane of glass. So even when your workload is running on mainframe, you don't have to go through the AWS console to actually go and monitor your job. Instead, you can do it through the Control M single pane of glass panel. So with that being said, this is what the offering offers the benefit. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Vaidi Sankaran, who will walk you through the. So over to you, Vaidi.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the event. I'm super excited to talk in the BMC Exchange, talking about one of the key feature that was most awaited to our mainframe modernization, which is integration of BMC's Control M to AWS Mainframe Modernization Service. Um, we have several requests from our customers, and we have continuously exceeded their expectations in terms of gaining their trust. So, to fulfill our customer expectations, AWS launched Mainframe Modernization Service last year. And let's talk briefly about what this service is all about. Going to the next slide, which gives you a snippet on what is AWS Mainframe Modernization Service. This service is all about creating, deploying, and managing mainframe applications in AWS, either through migrations or through modernization in a managed runtime service. We touch based each and every phase of the modernization journey, where with AWS Mainframe Modernization Service, our customers are able to analyze their mainframe workloads, identify the psychometric complexity of the code, and jot down the dependencies and plan efficiently towards their modernization journey. We also help customers in developing applications, which is where the actual migration or the modernization takes place. And we don't stop there. Once the application is developed in AWS Mainframe Modernization Service, we provide two managed services runtime to deploy the applications and also operate and scale based on need. This service was launched with two things in mind. One, of course, when customer asks us, hey, what do we do with our mainframe workload that is running on premise? How do we leverage the agility or how do we improve the time to market, addressing the business need? The other one, our customers believe that we add value and we make them successful. So when it comes to optimizing the cost, reducing the capital expense, optimizing their operational expenses through automation, this service was designed. Few key drivers behind using the service and taking a customer to a successful mainframe modernization journey are agility. We integrate DevOps and automation at each phase of develop, deploy, and operate to ensure we provide high agility and faster time to market. This is also a fully managed service by the virtue of which the customer can focus on taking care of the application and the data, and AWS takes care of the underlying infrastructure, providing elasticity and high resiliency. We have also built a pay-as-you-go model where the customer don't have to pay for the workload at peak. They can allow the system to scale and pay as they go. We enable faster modernization to automated refactoring and to our proven tool sets, thereby improving the quality of service, be it security, high availability, or elasticity. Moving to the next slide, which talks about a couple of options that we have in terms of the runtime. When we migrate or modernize the applications from on-premise to AWS Cloud using our AWS Mainframe Modernization Service, we have micro-focus-based managed service runtime, which takes care of replatforming option. And we also have AWS Blue Edge solution, which is an automated refactoring tool that helps in doing code refactoring and building Java or .NET-based applications. In both these options, we have the managed service runtime. One takes care of replatforming to ensure we address the business need and the faster modernization requests from the customers. On a longer run, we also help customers in terms of modernizing. There are customers who want to replatform and then modernize it to AWS Cloud, and we have customers who are focused on directly modernizing and improving the agility and leveraging the benefits of DevOps and faster time to market. Addressing all these options, we have built these two runtimes. Taking to the next slide, I wanted to show on what is there within this AWS Mainframe Modernization Service. We have retained the integrations with the underlying service, like S3, our DevOps tool stack, which includes CI/CD pipelines, build deploys, cloud formations for infrastructure automation. The other fundamental services like security, monitoring, file storage, and database are integrated to this. On the underlying service within mainframe modernization, we have analyzer, which helps in analyzing the code and identifying the complexity, jotting down the dependencies, and planning a better way of modernizing or migrating the applications. We have converters for data conversions. We have the platform for development, which could be a managed service runtime based on Micro Focus or automated refactoring runtime. We also have a scalable system where you could create different environments that include test and production. Taking to the next slide, which talks about how we walk through this mainframe modernization journey. We have a service, but how do we handhold and walk to along with the customers to ensure success? We start the journey with assessment, where we use a combination of our specialty and the tools to identify the current state, understand the vision, and find out the gaps, jot down the dependencies, and draft a roadmap towards taking our customers to the successful target state. And that lays a footprint or a kind of a fundamental basement towards our next phase. Once we have successful outcomes from the assessment, which includes a roadmap and a short-term and the long-term vision, we take them to the mobilize phase, where we do a proof of concept, we build a strong business case, and we also create the underlying infrastructures, security, complaints are addressed. And we take few sizable and scalable applications to migrate or modernize. And these are evolutionary prototype. We build on top of this prototyping or the proof of concept, and then we do a wave-based migration or modernization approach, helping the customer to achieve faster modernization or migration to our proven toolsets within the AWS Mainframe Modernization service. Having been in this for a year, so this was launched during reInvent 2021, and it's been over a year now and generally available to the global audience. We have been continuously building a lot of integration features to address various customer challenges so that we keep this evolved and address the day-to-day customer needs. And one of the most awaited integration is BMC's control M integration with our AWS Mainframe Modernization service. There have been always a lot of questions, right? Like we have the runtime, we have a managed service. How do we control our batch system? How do we do a workload orchestration? During the next demo, I hand it over to Sunil, my colleague, who's going to take you through how do we do this.
Okay. So next will be Joe Goldberg, who will be presenting the Control M software. Joe, take it over.
Thanks very much, Sunil and Vaidin. So yeah, my name is Joe Goldberg, as you heard, and I've had the privilege of being with Control M ever since it was exclusively a mainframe scheduler and seen it mature to where it is today. So if we go to the next slide, I'd like to begin by describing why we believe Control M is the perfect companion to AWS Mainframe Modernization. In most enterprises that run ZOS or mainframe workload, batch processing either supports or implements as much as 70+% of all of the business services that organization delivers. And this has remained true even as technology has evolved over the years. BMC has continuously innovated to deliver the capabilities in Control M that enterprises have been demanding, to be able to manage production workload from a business perspective. And it is that business perspective that positions Control M so well for this next sort of evolution with AWS Mainframe Modernization. Regardless of the complexity of the technology stack, Control M maintains a holistic end-to-end view of the entire business service. It gives you warning of potential SLA breaches at the earliest possible moment through real-time intelligent statistical analysis. And of course, it provides rich and powerful operational facilities to quickly identify and resolve problems. And BMC has recognized that enterprises have a huge diversity of skills and knowledge. So we provide persona-specific interfaces for consuming Control M services via graphical, web-based, as code, and even mobile interfaces. So these are the capabilities that make Control-M a strategic solution for managing enterprise-grade digital services in the most complex and challenging production environments, even as technology continues to morph and evolve. So if we go on to the next slide, please. When considering mainframe modernization, it's important to remember that mainframes are really deeply embedded not only in the technology, but probably even more importantly, in the business processes of every organization that runs them. And you've heard this from my colleagues who talked about migrating either all or portions. And it's in those kinds of migrations where it becomes absolutely critical that you have to examine lots and lots of different objects, usually carried out very methodically over a long period of time. So you really have to be able to plan to be running old and new or mainframe and AWS mainframe modernization together for quite some time to come. Of course, many organizations are also heavily regulated with lots of governance layers. So anything that you do that requires changes has to be checked and tested and rechecked. And this also contributes to having a migration that may span quite a lot of time. The vast majority of mainframe environments have been deployed over years, and lots of institutional processes and knowledge has developed over that time. And so these are characteristics that maybe will take some time, that will make the migration perhaps somewhat methodical. But on the other hand, every one of these organizations faces a lot of pressure from competition, market disruptors, ongoing demand from their customers. And these are factors that have driven organizations to modernize their tech stacks and probably are factors that drive them to consider mainframe modernization. And for all of these requirements, if we can go on to the next slide, this is where Control-M is a perfect solution. Organizations that are using Control-M have a huge investment in their workflow orchestration. They've accumulated a lot of knowledge and experience. They've developed operational processes and procedures. They have job definition standards, notification and incident management methodologies, and SLA commitments to their business stakeholders. When you embark on an AWS mainframe modernization project with Control-M, all of that institutional knowledge and all of that investment is totally preserved. These before and after images that you see on this slide are logically identical. Of course, there's going to be changes. You may be running some or eventually maybe all of your workload on AWS infrastructure instead of on a native or real z/OS machine. But the business logic and how your entire organization manages and interacts with it remains completely intact. What you see here is a Control-M workload automation client that's proven to be very popular among current z/OS users. But if we go on to the next slide, everything that I've been discussing equally applies to all of the other ways Control-M is consumed. Engineers can use JSON or a Python client to author workflows. And anyone, including business users, can see their workflows and business services in a web or a mobile UI. And you see examples of this on this screenshot. If we go on to the next slide. So in summary, you're really free to choose your migration path. Slow and cautious, or kind of pedal to the metal, replatform or refactor. Probably most organizations are going to choose a combination of these approaches. Control-M continues to manage all of your business workflows with all of the capabilities that organizations have learned and grown to depend on, and makes the transition completely seamless. And once you start on the cloud journey, if you already haven't done so, Control-M, as you heard from my colleagues, will also be able to manage all of your business workflows across on-prem, cloud infrastructure, cloud services, with a strategic, consistent solution that gives all of your stakeholders the freedom to drive business outcomes at the pace that your business demands. So at this point, let me give it back to Sunil for a real demo.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for covering that. And thank you, Vaidi, as well for going over the AWS Mainframe Modernization overview. So guys, I hope you find this engaging so far. So now it's a demo time. And before I start the demo, I want to show you the architecture, which actually showcases the demo, and then I will dive deep into it. On the right-hand side, you see is a AWS cloud infrastructure. It's a application which is migrated onto what you call AWS cloud, which has multiple jobs from job 1 through job 5. And on the left-hand side is a control M. For this demo purpose, even though control M can be run from on-premises distributed environment as well, we have installed control M on AWS. And as you can see, there is a workflow which has multiple jobs from job 1 through job 5, stitched together with dependencies based on the status code of the previous job execution. So as the workflow is executed, each job will start and then execute the actual JCL on the AWS Mainframe Modernization service. With that being said, let me bring up the AWS console, and I hope you guys can see it. Vaidi or Joe, could you confirm you guys can see this?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Mainframe Modernization service. On this thing, what do you call? Okay. All right. So here we go to the applications. And for this demo, what I'm expecting is we have already done a migration of a demo application. So when you look at this application definition, this is the AWS resource name. It's a unique name. This is the account number of the AWS account. And this is actually what the console, what the application ID is. So when I was showing you on the architecture, the application which will be targeted will be based on this ID. This is the current definition, and I don't want to go through this because that's not the focus of this thing. But one thing to note is the source location is S3 bucket of bank demo sample applications. Now, if I go here in this bank demo sample applications, this is where your JCLs are all stored. And as I said, I will be targeting these JCLs. These are dummy JCL just to go through the actual, what you call the demo of these things. But that's what that one is. The next thing to look at is this is the logs, console logs. On AWS, we have CloudWatch, where all the logs are gathered for anything which is done on AWS. And this is where we will go and see actually the logs getting run. As you can see, there are these jobs which are started, then there are jobs which are ended. Right? And then the last thing I wanted to show on this screen is the bad jobs. So this is where the bad job executions will happen. As you can see, the last bad job ended when it was executed was 909, succeeded with job 5. So that's on the AWS Mainframe Modernization side. That's on the left-hand side of the architecture diagram. Now, this is actually the control M, which we have installed it on AWS. Right? And I go through this control M web. And majority of you guys, as Joe mentioned, right, you would be actually porting your workflows from the existing on-premise and then using it on AWS when you migrated. So I have already created one workflow, and this is the workflow I wanted to open. So as I open this, as you can see, this is the same workflow which I showed you on the architecture diagram. I have added an extra step of file transfer job, which actually looks for a file of type.poc put into S3 bucket of BMC file. What this does is I don't have to manually execute it. It will eventually start execution on its own. Another thing to note is the job one, right? So each job is taking the same format, same template. So the input to this job is, this is the connection profile. The connection profile is actually connecting from control M to AWS Mainframe Modernization Service endpoint. And this is the application ID which I was talking about. As you can see, this is what that application ID which we took from Mainframe. And this is the job name. So the job name I'm targeting here is job 1. Similarly, there are other jobs where it is job 2 and the job 3 and subsequently, right? So what I will do is I'm going to order this workflow, right? Order the workspace. Right? And as I order it, once this is submitted, it says it is submitted. I'm going to move to monitoring, and we are going to go through this viewpoint to actually monitor this job. As you can see, I have run this job a couple of times just to make sure that the demo gods being kind to me. So this is the first step which is getting run, right? This is nothing but just MFT step for making sure that the file is already there. The file is already there. Now that this job is complete, we go through the next one. Now, when this is executing, this is what the output it looks like, right? And there are multiple outputs which I am trying to gather because I'm polling it every 5 seconds to see if the job is getting submitted. At the same time, I want to go back and show you on the mainframe modernization how this thing is getting executed, right? So as you can see right now at 11:14, this job 1 got executed, right? And this job 1 is getting executed. So this is succeeded. I copy this job ID. Now you can go and look at the logs in CloudWatch, but I want to show you everything in Control M. As we can see, this job 1, right? It is completed. Job 2 is completed. If I open this thing and the output of the job, we can see that same ID getting executed here. As I scroll through where we have taken it, so this is the log group name where the logs are generated. But what I have done is you can actually capture those logs and put it onto the Control M agent or the server, wherever you would like to be. So that is how this log output is done. And as you can see, since these jobs are getting executed successfully, the other jobs are getting triggered. And if I can go back and show you other jobs getting triggered, as you can see from 11:14, it started with job 1, job 2, job 3, job 4, and eventually it completed with job 5. So that kinds of a brief demo of what this integration would look like. Now, I used application integrator to actually create the job template, a job definition type. You would have your own CTM AI file, which you could import onto the planning and then start using it. So that's what I wanted to show you. So this is like a business continuity at its maximum. We understand you guys, the enterprises have invested a lot in Control M. They want to use mainframe. They want to modernize the mainframe with the changing times. They want to make sure they are right in competing with their competitors at the even level. So they would be migrating this workload of mainframe from on-premise to AWS cloud. So rest assured, as you are migrating, you don't have to worry about what to do with the scheduler. Nothing new. You can either use directly from on-premises distributed environment, or the best is you could actually go and migrate your Control M as well. So that kind of ends what the demo is look like. And I'm going to take you through what you call. Okay, so this thing and this thing. Okay. So that is the end. If there is any questions or anything, put it in the chat and we would be happy to answer. And if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to any one of us. Here is our name and the email addresses. And thanks for joining the session. So Megan, if there is any questions, anything that pops up, you could put it here and we could answer. And thank you, Joe, for the wonderful overview of Control M in a short span of time. And thanks to Vaidi also for covering the AWS Mainframe Modernization service. So this automation template for this, actually the demo which we have shown, there is a blog post coming in near future and very soon, like in couple weeks or so. It's in the publishing mode right now. And that would actually walk you through the template, and it has a sample template as well where you can take it and walk you through the whole demo so you can do it on your own. I hope that answers the question. Okay, so glad that we covered this in 30 minutes. I was a little worried that going through the demo would make it a little bit more. Any more questions or anything I could entertain? But we also have Meet the Experts booth. We had one today. There is one tomorrow, like an hour before this session. So you could join there with any of the questions you might have, either from the mainframe migration perspective or using the control M alongside AWS mainframe modernization migrated workload. So that's where we are at.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation, and it's great talking in this event. Appreciate your time.